Other implementation things. Prioritization threats. The prioritization phase is the third stage in the CTEM framework. During this phase, organizations evaluate the potential vulnerabilities identified in the discovery phase based on how likely they are to be exploited and the potential impact this would have on the organization. Here are the key steps involved in prioritizing threats during CTEM implementation. Assess severity and likelihood. Businesses often use a risk assessment methodology to analyze the severity and likelihood of each vulnerability. This involves evaluating the potential damage that could be caused if the vulnerability were to be exploited. Consider business impact. CTEM programs help organizations prioritize threats based on their potential impact on the business. This involves considering factors such as the criticality of the affected system or data, the potential financial impact, and the potential reputational damage. Availability of compensating controls. The availability of compensating controls, which are alternative measures that can reduce the risk of a vulnerability being exploited, is also a factor in prioritization. Tolerance for residual risk. The organization's tolerance for residual risk, which is the risk that remains after all controls have been applied, is another factor that can influence prioritization. Allocate resources. Based on prioritization, organizations can effectively allocate resources towards the most significant risks. This strategic approach to threat management results in more efficient use of resources and a quicker response to the most potentially damaging threats. Prioritization methods. Here are some common methods and best practices for prioritizing threats during CTEM implementation. Business-aligned prioritization. CTEM aligns its prioritization with business objectives, focusing on the most critical threats and vulnerabilities that could impact the organization's most valuable assets. This approach ensures that resources are allocated where they matter the most, aligning the organization's efforts with the ever-changing threat landscape. Impact analysis. Prioritization should include an analysis of the potential impact of each threat. By evaluating the severity and potential damage of each threat, organizations can effectively allocate resources towards the most significant risks. Dynamic prioritization. The threat landscape is dynamic, with new vulnerabilities emerging regularly. Therefore, prioritization strategies need to be adaptable to address evolving threats effectively. Resource allocation. Human resources are finite, and security teams must prioritize their efforts. The key is to allocate resources towards impactful vulnerabilities that can significantly impact the organization. To ensure that threat prioritization is aligned with business goals, organizations should incorporate strategic business goals into their CTEM program. This approach allows organizations to evaluate the severity and damage potential of every threat, and then allocate resources accordingly, ensuring that security measures are focused on protecting the most critical business assets.